You're listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast with Ken Lucci of Driving Transactions and James Blain of PAX Training. Learn how you can build a thriving transportation business with real profits, repeat clients, and enterprise value. And now for your hosts, Ken and James.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Ground Transportation Podcast. We are in the Ground Transportation Podcast studio with my lovely and talented co-host, James Blain from PAX Training, the best chauffeur training, best customer service training in the industry. How are you, James?
I'm good. It's Friday.
Good.
Best day of our week. We live for this.
Oh, it is a great day today. Fridays are my favorite day. Now, not too many people know this, but I do work Saturdays only because I don't know about you, but you get the hockey, the kids, the wife, the whole thing. But I find that I can get more done in 4 hours on a Saturday than 8 hours
calls.
on a full day.
No, I have the same thing. I find that.
But I think Friday is a good day to decompress because as we get to the summertime, less people want to do hard appointments with us. But listen, today I want to talk about something that is near and dear to me, that's concerning me in the industry because, when we look at Facebook and we see operators complaining about, their airport transfers are down. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the airport is a real point of contention, and especially on the chauffeured services side of the industry.
Right. So listen, at the end of the day, I maintain that airport transfers are the milk and bread of the industry. All right. If we're a grocery store, which is, my family background, if we're a grocery store, the milk and bread is what gets them in the door to sell the higher price stuff. Okay. Number one, I think we do a terrible job as an industry telling our airport transfer customer everything else that we can do for them. That's number one.
Oh yeah, that's a small business issue across the board, right?
Right, exactly. The assumption is, it's on my website that I do wine tours. Yeah, they're not sitting on your website, right? They're not sitting on your website, in your website. So number one, if you accept the fact that airport transfers are a necessity to get them in the store, they're the milk and the bread. We have to be competitive. Now, this is a true statistic per the GBTA. When you look at corporate America, 67% of the reason why corporate America uses chauffeured services is for the standard airport transfer. Okay. Now, 25% use this for motorcoach and group and meeting and a bunch of other stuff, right? That they do maybe once or twice a year.
But airport might be your entry point to get there.
Airport transfer is vitally important. Now, I will share that's GBTA.
No.
The other thing I will share with you is based on the work we've done, every single company that we have reviewed out of the 270 plus companies, maybe 230 were chauffeured companies, but of every company that we have reviewed, the ones who have turned their back on airport transfer and said, I'm getting out of the sedan and SUV business, to a company, every single one of them, their revenue has dropped off. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that made the strategic decision to pivot towards school and university contracts or corporate shuttle contracts, right? That's literally changing your entire mindset. You're no longer a supermarket. You are a Black Angus butcher shop. I love it, right? But if you want to do business with corporate America, you need to understand that 67% of the reason why they use chauffeur transportation is to or from the airport it's either their high-level managers or their executives. So if you accept that reality, you have a couple of choices, okay? Number one, drop your pants and go low price.
Yeah.
That's a technical finance term, dropping your pants.
That's the official, the unofficial technical. The unofficial technical,
right?
Yeah,
so drop your pants to nothing or know what your costs are. I maintain that you can't stay in business doing airport transfers unless you're making more than 30 to 35% gross margin on the trip. So what does that mean? That means that if you charge $100, $35 is devoted to pay your overhead, to pay you to make a profit, right? Believe it or not, you're going to spend 60 to 65 bucks to have the vehicle that does the work, pay the driver, repair and maintenance, fleet insurance, etc. Okay. The problem I see with airport transfers going down is not the fact that people are not traveling. Domestic air travel grows at 4% a year, compounded annually. International travel is growing at 5% a year. So it's a proverbial hockey stick compared to a standard business growth is about 2%. Okay. So my answer to operators is do not shy away from or turn your back on airport. Number one, triple down on who is using you right now. Example.
Right.
If you've got a pharmaceutical company using you, guess what? They're not the only pharmaceutical company in the world. You create a use case as to why pharmaceutical companies like us and use us for airport travel.
But real quick, before we move on, because this is something that Maurice talked about, this is something we've seen episode and episode again. Let's not forget that if you are a black car operator that has larger vehicles, you have a superpower. Because guess who typically doesn't ride in the bus? The CEO, the COO, the guys that have all the power, all the control, all the ability, right? They're typically not the one that they're putting on the bus. So if you are operating black car and you've got the airport and you've got those guys and you've got them in the vehicle, that is your ability to be able to take just a couple airport runs or even a couple runs there and convert that into a major client, right? There's been absolutely no lack of companies where it's, we started out, they were looking for a higher level service to do this. And then they had a group move. Then they contacted us for this. The next thing we knew, because they were so happy with how we took care of their executives, we're taking care of all the business.
Okay, so let me go down this road.
So, yeah, I wanted to kind of tee this one up because it really lines up with where we're going.
Right. If you're doing business with a lawyer, they're not the only lawyer in town.
Nope.
Create the electronic use case as to why more lawyers use you than anybody else. Sell existing clients more things, to your point. If they took an airport transfer with you last year in April, call them in March, email them in March.
Follow up.
So to me, it's tripling down on your strategy of who's using me now, let me find more of them, and then let me go deep with those clients, okay? So every single large corporation that is moving to and from the executives to and from the airports, they certainly are going places that you can also provide service to out of town. So a good friend of mine in the business calls it selling the fries. Do you want fries with that?
Yep.
So to me, it's looking at every transfer and not saying, oh, I'm down in trips. Who gives a shit? If you're up in revenue, you're winning, right?
Yep.
So again, it's that whole volume versus revenue. To me, the airport transfers accept the reality that 67% of the reason corporate America uses us is for airport. That's our entree into employee incentive programs during the week. It's groups and meetings. It's buses. It's vans for training. It's everything. It's the board meeting. It's the out of town travel. So you cannot give it up. I hear people well, I'm just not going to compete. Good for you. Your market share is going to go down. Right? Again, unless you want to do a total pivot because it's your entry point. The second thing with airport transfers is when we did the State of the Industry report, we researched airline travel. I read every single airline analyst report. By the way, don't invest in stocks in airline. But anyway, the analyst reports, all of them talk about, number one, the growth in first class customers. Okay. Now, believe it or not, 67% of business class first class seats during the week, they're frequent corporate travelers. On the weekends, guess who they are? They're wealthy private individuals. 70% of air travel is done for personal reasons. 70%. 16% is corporate employees turning in their receipts. They're traveling for corporate business. 8% is for small business people, right, that are traveling for whatever reason. But the remainder is personal travel. So we do a terrible job as an industry. Oh, we're competing with Uber. No, you're not.
If you're competing with Uber, you blew it, right? If you're competing with, and I've said this time and time again, right? The whole, like, if you're trying to compete with a TNC, you can't.
You can't compete. You can't.
Right?
You can't.
Listen to us. It's a volume play. And here's the thing. If you're really going to be in a different class, guys, this is the reason we exist. This is the reason PAX is in business, right? Because you've got to give that person an experience they're never going to forget. And by the way, one of the biggest missed opportunities I see in this industry, and whoever goes and does this software automatically, right? Limo Anywhere, whoever does it, send me the check when you get it figured out. But what I would want, if I got in the business tomorrow and I was doing a lot of airport work, I would have a rule that says, hey, if we know this is a first-time traveler with us and they're doing any kind of trip with us, first time with us, as soon as they get out of the vehicle, if it's not a corporate client and it's their first trip, I'm going to send an email and I'm going to say, thank you so much for riding with us. We'd love the opportunity to make all of your travel needs super easy. Here are the main ways that we help our customers. And I would take the top trips that I do for people and I would say, hey, we can help you with, your weddings. We can help you with your nights out. We can help you with corporate, whatever it turns out in your business, those biggest ones are, because I cannot tell you, and Ken, I don't know if you see this, but I see so many missed opportunities where, like you're saying, well, they don't know what I do and nobody bothers to tell them. They're not going to read your website.
No, they're also not going to sit on Facebook. I mean, to me, it's not about showing off that limo bus. It's about happy people in the limo bus. A picture of the happy people and what are the upcoming concerts. So
Sell
back
the
to the airports,
not the medal.
Back to the airports. I can tell you that when if you drill down and do what we do and you read the analyst reports from the TNCs, 85% of the trips the TNCs take are less than $25 and 25 minutes. Okay. Yeah. So if I'm an operator today, I'm focusing my marketing of airport transfers 45 minutes away from the airports in the wealthiest zip codes. And I'm looking at the corporate parks where they are and the corporate buildings and where do those people live.
Right.
And I'm marketing in the wealthiest zip codes within a ring 45 minutes out. Why? Because I can guarantee you at 4:00 in the morning, 45 minutes away from an urban area, you're not going to find an Uber driver, guaranteed. And that's the Achilles heel. 16%, by the way, only 16% of airport transfers from people's homes to their primary airport, 16% are done by TNCs. Okay. Why? Because they cannot direct, they cannot control, they cannot guarantee that they're going to have a vehicle there. We can. Okay. So to me, I would implore operators to, number one, know what your cost structure is and don't be a pig. Pigs get slaughtered. But if you know your cost structure, you know what you can afford, the lowest price you can afford to do the airport trip. And I'm not saying call 5 competitors and cut prices by 20% because you're going to go out of business. But I'm saying know what your cost structure is, so know what it costs you. I know companies that charge a little bit more for late night or early morning pickups at the airport or meet and greets, etc. But be careful, how much I don't want to turn how much you nickel and dime, right? I would work the hardest, not for the person that uses airport once because they're visiting my city. I would work the hardest for someone that travels repeatedly 10 times a year, 20 times a year, or they have corporate people, road warriors out there, okay? And I would work my ass off price-wise for them.
But walk it back a second, though, Ken. Walk it back a second, right? Because you already set that up earlier when you said, hey, I'm targeting the wealthy zip codes. You want to be intentional. And I'm sure we'll go more in depth on it in a second. But there are so many people out there that I'm going to PPC and pay per click advertising for those that aren't familiar with that term. I'm going to basically make it so that every time someone searches the airport code on Google, I pop up and then I'm going to be the one. Look, if you
No,
want to
no,
grow your business, the way you
no.
grow your business isn't by giving every single person in your entire city a flyer. We've talked on it this before. We'll talk on it again. Not every single person is your customer, and it's
Nope.
not purely a volume play. What I would really care about is, how do I get those travelers that have that corporate link that I can then say, hey, we're so happy to take care at the airport. We'd love to be able to take care of you for work, to take care. If you've got first class travelers, if you've got business class travelers, and you can then grab the rest of their work, now you've got a way to ascend that. Because in so many cases, you're going to get one interaction and then there's no opportunity to ascend it. So I think what Ken said earlier is super important here, and that you've got to make this intentional. Your goal is not to get every single person to the airport, try to get all of them. It's to try and get the right ones so you can ascend it and grow your business with it.
So let's talk about who the corporate travelers are. Okay. GBTA, we got the list. We drilled down to the top 100 industries. Okay. Believe it or not, 38% of business class passengers are technical support people for for software or hardware. So let's break it down. Largest employers in your area should know who you are and what you do. Your public companies, 100% public companies. Okay. Doctors and lawyers, without question.
Easy.
Pharmaceutical companies, without question. At the end of the day, knowing and I agree with you. PPC is like a shotgun blast.
Yep.
You need to have a sniper rifle. True story. Client of mine called and said, I just opened up. I can't believe they called me. They're a Fortune 100 company. They were using such and such a network, didn't have metal in the city, and they don't own any metal, as a matter of fact. And the guy left they had 3 service failures, and they just booked with me. I said, okay, back up. I'm happy you did that. I'm happy you got that. But here's what I think I would recommend. Number 1, make sure that you have it marked that this is a status 1, VIP, whatever you want to call it, because and put your best people on it. Then
this is an A-level game.
And then ask his executive assistant, who searched for you, by the way, who found you, right? Ask if you can come down, or ask if you can schedule a 10-minute Zoom meeting to go through everything else you do. Find out who the head of HR is, because they're always looking for places and people to take out their employees. Ask who the head of procurement is. Ask how many total travelers do they have, and what cities do they go in. So PPC to me goes long. What I want you to do is go deep, right?
Yep.
I want you to go deep, and chances are that wealthy couple that uses you 4 times a year, guess what? The zip code where they live in, guaranteed there are other people that travel 4 or 5 times a year. Guaranteed they belong to the same country club. Guaranteed the wives get their hair done twice a week at the same place, right? Or there's a high-end travel agent that they book. I mean, these are not Carnival Cruise $300 10-day cruises they're going on.
Well, and they got to get creative.
Go
too.
deep. They have to get creative.
So if you have that lawyer that you've worked with, or you have that couple, or you have that, you could easily send them something that says, give a friend or family member the gift of peace of mind when they're traveling.
Right.
20% off their first trip with us,
right?
Whatever that might be, give them a way to tell someone about it. Give them a way to do that, because birds of a feather flock together. We all know that.
Give them an employee discount when the employees are traveling on Saturdays and Sundays. When I was an operator, it used to drive me crazy. Not really, but every Saturday and Sunday we were nuts on weddings, right? But then I would look at the sedans and SUVs just sitting there lonely, right? Sunday is the new travel day. It's the heaviest travel day. But employees that may take a Friday off and go out of town, give them an employee discount and tie it to the volume of the corporate accounts. So don't just go long and try PPC. To me, PPC is papering the whole community,
Right.
and it's a losing proposition. Go deep. So when I looked at this, when I said to this guy, listen, did you do what I asked you to do, which is recommended, which is go see the EA? Okay, go see the executive assistant. Say, listen, I'm going to be in your area. I'd like to stop in. How did the trip go? Always follow up with new clients. But then tell me something. Is he the only one that travels? I mean, chances are no, right? So I never forget when I was an operator, a client, another operator had said to me, oh, you'll never get to do business with Tech Data. They buy only on price and they use an out-of-town network. So what did we do? We called the EA, one of the EAs that we knew worked there from even back in the day. We had LinkedIn. So we said, listen, we'd like to come over and we'd like to show you the latest executive transportation vehicles that we just put into the fleet. And I'd like to sponsor a coffee break in the morning. Okay. Now, she was nice enough. It would help if you were referred by someone, but she was nice enough to say, of course, come on over. We lined up a brand new Escalade, a brand new Sprinter with executive seating. And then, believe it or not, we had a limo bus. And one of the operators like, they'll never use that. I go there. First thing, that's where we had the coffee.
But if they don't know you have it, they're sure as hell not going to use it.
We put the coffee in the bar.
The limo
and
bus.
it looked in the limo bus. And guess what they used? The head of HR came and they're like, oh, wow, we want to use that. We have an employee incentive program. And we do a dine around. We do a dine around every month. We do one dine around for one department. Can we use this
for those dine arounds
on a Thursday night? Yeah, I think the limo bus will be available on Thursday night. But you know what? If we didn't, going back to the airport transfers, if we didn't sharpen our pencil and ask the question, is he the only one who is traveling? We wouldn't have gotten that. So. The message to me for every operator who's listening to this is, if you're getting frustrated that you think your airport business is dropping, then you need to quadruple down. You need to look at who's using you, see if there are any other travelers, see if they're traveling in any other city. Listen, we're dropping your boss off at the airport. I wanted you to know that we're part of a global network. Can I provide you the same level of service in another city? Watch what happens to your profits when you add one leg to the round trip. In addition to that, if you've got one law firm or one doctor's practice, guess what? They're not the only lawyer or the only doctor out there. Put it on your website that don't use their name, but more law firms use us than any other company. Here is why. And just list the value proposition. So if you cede the airports to the taxis and TNCs, I predict the industry is going to be in big trouble.
Well, and let's take a second, because you've dropped a ton of gems, right? I feel like we're in Snow White. We just came out of the mine. We got all the diamonds and gems, right?
Wait a minute. Shout out to Gem Limousine in New Jersey. Joe Galino. He also owns Strawberries, the greatest pizza place and the greatest wings. I love to go see them because Bentley has a girlfriend there. Her name is Sobe. She's a French bulldog. But then Joe always takes me to Strawberries. But to your point, sorry, I digress.
No. So here's a couple things, right? I want to start at the beginning. You dropped LinkedIn for 2 seconds, and we have been talking about how do you find the other lawyers? How do you find the other doctors? Guys, you can go get on LinkedIn. You can go connect with your customers, especially, look, in a lot of cases, you're the ambassador for your brand as the owner. Get on there, start connecting with people, start looking at who their connections are, start figuring that out. The other piece,
ask for referrals.
Ask for referrals.
If they love you, if their boss loves you, don't give the boss's name. Just call the EA and say, listen, I'm not going to put you on a list, but can I ask you a favor? Can I have somebody email you for a reference on us? Of course you can. All right. No. Now, don't put them on a list. Reference lists are kind of passe, right? Don't put the fact that IBM uses us on your website. All you're doing there is now some idiot who's a low price than you is going to go grab it. But I think a personal recommendation, I do that all the time. People send me recommendations all the time.
And a lot of this is, if you're going after corporate America, you want to have conversations. And I will share a story. When I had my very first business, my dad and I were out, and my dad was talking to someone, and he starts, it literally, they talk for 2 seconds. So who's the head of procurement? How do you guys find your services for this and that? And me being a new business owner was dead wrong. Dad, you can't just ask that kind of stuff. That's too bold. You got to get there. And I was a dumb, right?
Whoa. Say that again.
No.
That again.
I just made Ken's life, right? That sound bite will be used over and over. I was but here's the thing, right? I didn't know any better. I had this limiting belief. You guys will hear me say that because I found that a lot of times it's me that holds the business back. It's my beliefs that hold the business back. I had this limiting belief at the time that I couldn't just go ask, hey, who's in charge of that? Hey, what are you doing for that? Hey, are you guys happy with what you're doing? Hey, if I could provide more value, if I could give you something that's above and beyond what you've ever had before, and I was willing to let you try it for free, would you guys be willing to do it, right? I had this limiting belief you couldn't go and do that. And I will tell you that couldn't be further from the truth. Now, is there a right and a wrong way to do it? Absolutely. We've talked time and time again how coming in up to someone at a trade show and interrupting a conversation will drive them nuts. But that's not to say that you're not going to go up to someone and say, hey, I'd love to see if there's an opportunity. I work in your area. I'd love to help you out.
Your father's obviously read How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Absolutely.
Was it Zig Ziglar that wrote that book?
I want to say that's Dale Carnegie.
You're right. It was Dale Carnegie. Okay.
Yeah.
So back in the day, every life insurance salesperson, okay, had to read that book. And if you've ever been sold life insurance, those sons of will get more out of you. In 30 seconds, they're like, they know my waist size, they know my last 4 digits of my social.
What's important to you, what you care about.
That's the training. But so what your father was doing is weaving it into just general conversation. Yep. But to me, okay, so let's just talk about, if you're already doing business with one lawyer in a 10-lawyer practice, do you think you've got enough juice in that practice to say to the EA who books you, you know what, we'd love to offer you the best prices possible, corporate account for all of your travelers, for all of your partners, but is there anybody else who travels? We'd like to add their home address, right, to your account. And that way I can give you the best possible pricing. So,
and you can take that further too, Ken. You can take a play out of the medical sales book and you can say, hey, John, we've done tons of business with you. I don't know if your partners would be interested, but I'd love to have an opportunity to kind of share what we do with them. Would you mind if I bring in lunch for you and all your business partners?
Food sales.
You just let me know what day, and I'd be happy to come by and no sales pitch. I just give them that, let them know what we do, and
So let's back up a step. Do you remember the name Otis Spunkmeyer?
I know the name. Yeah, the cookies, right?
Whoa. The cookies. Okay, so this is a true story. This is a story. So this is one of my wacky ideas, and there's a woman named Shelley Taylor who worked for me as at Ambassador, still works for me on and off. She's taken care of Bentley, and we bought an Otis Spunkmeyer cookie maker. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay, and you bought the oven,
fresh, warm baked cookies, right?
Right, and you bought the oven, and then what? Then you got like a case of frozen dough, right?
Yeah, so they look like little pellets you put in there, right?
Right. So we would basically make a list of everywhere we wanted to drop those. Okay, and we would have a chauffeur bring, and we did a nice job with it, with a box of cookies and a paper cube that said Ambassador Limousine. And
that's the one with the refill on the bottom, right? As soon as they get through, they call for the refill.
Correct. On the bottom of the paper cube, it said, for more paper cubes, call our reservation line, and we sent a driver out with them. So food works, and you're right. Food, if you want to know what other industries do to break in when they're either cold calling or break the ice, so to speak, it's food.
And it works.
It's bringing food. It works every time. Somebody said to me the other day, well, you can't just walk into office buildings. You know what? But you can in every suburban office park out there. I get a filling done, right? And I'm looking, and there's like 7 orthopedic surgeons. There's an ophthalmologist all in the same medical community. I mean, we deal with a CPA, and he says to me, Ken, is there a decent limo company down here? Because the family and I got to go to BWI, which is like 2 hours from here. So, of course, I call one of my clients, right? And I said, listen, take care of this guy. He's my accountant. So my whole point on the airport thing is, I honestly believe, first of all, there are ebbs and flows of every business.
Every business.
But instead of fighting for the shrinking pie, which is corporate America, and I'm going to do affiliate work for the 3 or 4 or 5 networks, right? How about you literally dig where your gold is, look at your existing clients, go back 3 years in Limo Anywhere and figure out who has not used you and send them a card that says, hey, we miss you. If you've got any travel coming up, here's $20 off a round trip. Okay, whatever the offer is that you want to do, just get them back in the car.
Yep. And don't mass email it. Don't make it. Don't, right, guys? Emails are a dime a dozen. Like we talked about on a previous episode. When your dispatchers aren't doing anything, go have some cards, write them up, throw a stamp on it, drop it in the mail. Anything you can do to personalize and anything you can do ideally to start a conversation.
So the other day, I was on site with a client, unbelievable area where the client lives. And we went out to lunch and he's pointing out this country club and he's pointing out this gated community. And we get back to his office and we do a sales heat map, right? And I just Google the zip codes of those same areas. And like, you're not getting the market share you need to. Well, there are no corporations there. I said, that's where all the CEOs live.
Yeah, that's their house.
Right. So figure out, I mean, go to the country club and say, you know what? We have many of your members use our service. We'd like all of your members to use our service as a member benefit. This is what we can do for you. Okay. But think about that. Oh, well, it's either that or spend $3,000 for PPC. Right. So,
well, but it's a different strategy, right? Because PPC is not going to start that conversation.
It's going to go broad. It's going to go big and broad.
We are talking about, and I don't want to go super deep in it because this could be another episode, but you're talking about the difference between sales and marketing, right? We are talking about building relationships. We're talking about taking it deeper. We're talking about leveraging what you have. Notice how in this entire episode, at no point have we gone, when you're competing with a TNC, guys, they should be on this level. You live on that level. And if you're not differentiating, providing a difference in service and marketing different things, look, if you're doing airport, it's, hey, do you want to have the reliability, the peace of mind to know that someone's going to be waiting? You're going to look out the window. We'll help you look. This will be the most peace of mind you've ever had going to the airport, right?
Safest way to travel. Who is traveling? Oh, it's my wife. It's my wife and daughter. Well, you've come to the right place because this is the safest way. They're coming back at 11 o'clock at night. Can I recommend that we greet them inside the airport?
Yep.
Okay. But so, you know, I just find that I find that when I see this on Facebook, I also see that it's almost like it's a negative fest, right? Everybody piles on. Oh yeah, you know, this was a tough quarter for airport travel. You know, we dug into this with a client. He had a tough first quarter for airport. And I said, see the problem? Your primary customer who does $1 million a year with you in airport, they're half of what they were last year. What's going on? So what does he do? He calls them. And the lady said, we've cut back on travel for the following reason for this first 2 quarters. It's temporary. Okay. But my whole point to him is you don't have a problem. We're not losing airport as a market share. You have one situation with one client. My answer is create the constant sales machine. Always be presenting, right? You remember the ABC, always be closing. Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, right? Best sales movie out there. Everybody, Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, go out and rent that movie. Alec Baldwin gives an unbelievable speech, right? A, B, C. Always be closing. To me, don't rest on your laurels. So if you notice that Mr. Lucci traveled with me last year 25 times, but I've not seen him recently, don't be afraid to Send them an email, an individual email. Call them and say, listen, Mr. Lucci, we haven't seen you in a bit. Can we help you out with any travel? Do you have any travel coming up? Being proactive increases, instead of waiting for the phone to ring, double and triple down. To me, it's natural stuff.
But let's go back to something that came up in one of the very first episodes we ever did on this podcast. And
It was
I
like,
mentioned something.
7 years ago?
Oh, yeah. No, I was like 40.
7 years ago?
I think it's 40 or 50 now.
Look at our producers put he's put an addition on his house, for Christ's sake. It's been has it been 5 years?
I think he bought a new one. But no, so going back to that first episode, one of the things that came up was there's nothing worse than if somebody has a negative or bad experience and they leave and you don't even notice, right? I didn't even matter enough for you to notice that if you see that business starts going down and you call in on that customer and they say, well, we've got a downturn of business. Hey, not a problem. It's always our number one goal is to take care of you. And we saw that you weren't booking as much. We want to make sure that we're doing everything you can to have the best experience. We're sorry to hear that the travel's going down. Is there anything that we can do so that when that comes back up or when that changes, we're ready to be a good partner for you, right?
Yep.
Those types of things, those types of check-ins. And then, like we've said so much on this episode, keep in mind that you are not fighting for the same person that Uber is. You are not fighting for the same person that Lyft is. But what you have to do is you have to represent a different standard, a different level. And we haven't talked about it much.
More value.
Right. When you get there, keep in mind, they're going to send the same vehicle that you are. I can get out. I can go into any airport I want. I can order a black SUV. But is that chauffeur going to be ready to help me? Are they out of the vehicle? Are they greeting me? Are they taking care of? Am I going to have an experience to where that customer service, that safety, that envelope of comfort that I step into as soon as I start interacting with your company becomes such an experience for me that it ruins it for someone else? The best thing you can do to lock down your business is provide an experience that is so fluid, that is so simple, that creates such peace of mind that when they go with someone else, when they go with TNC, even though it's more convenient, it's night and day to that person.
So we're going all over the place on this, but I'll tell you, the other piece of this puzzle is when someone calls in for a trip, what's the first thing you should ask? A, have you used us before?
No.
No. Okay. Assume it's a no. Tell me something. I'm sorry. What's your first name?
Ritz-Carlton. Here it comes.
No, James.
Yeah,
right.
so?
James, tell me something. What did you do before this? Well, I used so-and-so and, we had some problems. Listen, nothing against them, but tell me something. I want to make sure that we take really good care of you. You said that they messed up with your boss. What happened? Only so that you can understand. Don't commiserate and say they suck, right? No. Only so you can understand.
Help me understand is one of my favorite phrases.
Right. Okay, so how did you hear about us? What did you do? What did you do before today? Right. And if they say, how did you hear about us? So we can figure out, whether your marketing is actually working. That to me is, you talk about digging where the gold is. There's no question in my mind that reservationists are not asking those questions. Right. Or if, yes, I've used you before. Thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for using us again. Could I have your last name? Oh, I see that you travel with us in October. Terrific. What can I do for you today? Yep. And always try to sell the fries. Try to turn the one transfer into the round trip into the third leg. But I honestly do know, based on airline growth and the growth in airline passengers, we have no shortage of people to sell that service to.
Not at all.
Airlines are growing at 4% domestically, 5% internationally, compounded every single year. Now, just to put that into perspective, the gross domestic product of the United States is growing at 2%. So Airline passenger growth is a virtual hockey stick. So don't tell me that we can't compete. The answer is double down on your best clients, double down on duplicating your best clients, making sure that you're going deep with your best clients, that everybody who travels is using you, right? When was the last time you went into your best client? I don't care if you're a 2-car operator. When was the last time you went into your best client and thanked them by giving them something, right? Okay, at the end of the day, your sales job doesn't end the first time you got them in the car. They need to know everything that you possibly do. I had another client calls me and says, very congratulatory, very happy with himself. He said, I just took care of the president of such and such company that was going to the Super Bowl. Was it New Orleans this year?
Yeah, New Orleans. Yeah, I'm a Kansas City guy. That's a rough one. We try to pretend that one didn't happen.
He said, I pulled a rabbit out of my hat. He said, I found an SUV coming over from Atlanta my affiliate in Atlanta went over there, and they're doing a 12-hour wait and return with my client, this new client that I have. I pulled a rabbit. His executive assistant was so happy. I said, okay, that's not your only win. That's the open door. Now, make sure he's happy. Check in with the affiliate, make sure everything went well, call the affiliate and say, listen, I'm going to be out there this week. I want to stop by for 10 minutes and give you something. And drop something off, whether it's your capability booklet, whether you send them an electronic capability brochure, make sure that they know everything you do and ask them for the rest of their damn business. So, he was happy as hell because he worked on this. He worked on getting that guy an SUV. He had to make about 6 calls. This guy is like tenacious, right? And it was a big ticket. And money was no object because she couldn't do it. His EA, couldn't get it done. So this is a brand new client. What better way for you to get more business from them? For you, you've already got the calling card. Listen, Mary, I'm glad your boss is happy. Let me tell you, pulling rabbits out of our hats, what we do every single day. Let me ask you a question. Who else travels in the company? I'd like to open a corporate account for you so I can give you best-in-class service anywhere you travel. So, Facebook, first of all, it annoys the shit out of me that all of the operators are sitting on Facebook rather than...
we could have a whole podcast, right? I can tell you.
And someday we will.
Who do we have in this city is the bane of my existence, right? As someone that cares about the experience, cares about safety. When I book with a car service, what I want to know is that you went on Facebook and spent all of 30 seconds to shove me with the first guy that gave you a low price. That makes me feel good. But so that's another episode.
Look, and it comes back to what we talked about in another episode, which is it's not the market, it's your mindset. Okay. Right. Because I can tell you something. The top 1% of the people in this country that shop at the best jewelers, that dine at the best restaurants in your market, that shop at the best local stores, they are not taking Uber to and from the airport at 4:00 in the morning. I know because I read their analyst reports and they lament the fact that they are growing in the $20 20-minute rides like crazy. Yep. By the way, you know where they're growing the most? Uber X. Oh. Uber X, they are saturated the low price, but you know where they're not growing is the Uber black market. They have more capacity, but they are literally not growing in the airport space. They lament it on every call. And when you think about it, there's no way they can guarantee that driver's going to be out at 4:00. If I'm an Uber black driver, I'm not getting up at 4:00 in the morning for what? An $80 trip? I'm going to get 60% of that. By the time I pay for the gas to get 45 minutes out of the city.
Not only that, what happens when he cancels, right? Now, right. I can tell you, there was a point in time when every time I went to Las Vegas, right? The big thing in Las Vegas is they were dealing with issues of you'd order an Uber, it'd be across town, it would cancel, it'd never show up. Then you'd have to book a new one. Nobody wants to deal with that at that hour. I will tell you, I don't know that there's a better way to leave this other than this is your door to get into the rest of the business. And I think as an operator, you have to understand that you are not competing with the TNC. You do not want the same passenger he wants. And if you cannot differentiate yourself from the TMCs, even their black or their premium or their top level tier, if you can't find a different way to differentiate, you're missing the point. I don't know, Ken. I don't know that there's a better way to leave it than that.
No, one final thought. One of my favorite people in the entire industry, who shall remain nameless, said to me that he gets frustrated because people will call him for a price, and then they won't go with him. And then the next morning, it's 3:00 in the morning or 4:00 in the morning, they're waking him up, right? So I said to him, you need to develop a strategy, find out the who, what, where, and when, and why of how often they travel. And, oh, your price is too high. What are you comparing us to? Oh, Uber. You know what? We don't compete with Uber. And you know what?
Right.
Some people tell me that I know we're higher priced. Some people tell me that. They compare us to Uber. But those are the same people that usually call me the day after because the Uber driver hasn't shown up. We have redundant vehicles, redundant drivers, background check drivers.
Build the value before you give the price, right?
Yes.
Big shout out to my partner, Bruce, on that. He talked about it in his episode very early on. Build the value before you give the price. Because when they call and they go on Uber, it's just going to throw a number out.
And don't accept no. So, give them the best price you can based on round trip. If you open a corporate account with me, if somebody says to you, oh, you're too high price, you're much higher than an Uber, and they're coming in and out of your city once a year, don't worry about it. You don't need them anyway.
It's not your guy.
Right. He's not your guy. But if you know that he's with such and such a corporation, or he lives in a wealthy area and he's a frequent traveler, do the best you can. This is the best I can do if you book a round trip with me. And here's the promise I make for you. 15 minutes before the appointed time, look out your window. The vehicle's going to be there. We guarantee on-time performance. So it's not the market. It's the mindset. It's not your price. It's the perspective and the value that you can build. Don't give up on airport. If you give up on airport, you're literally saying, we're not going to deliver the milk and bread. They're not going to come into your store. That's the way I look at it.
And Ken, let me ask you something, because this just, we're in this marketing mindset. I got to tell you, if I was in the business today, I would also be looking at bundling and say, hey, no, I totally understand. Let me ask you, what are you doing for transportation when you get there and you get back? Because if we book your transportation to the airport now, we can take care of you when you arrive in your destination. We can get you back to the airport. We can get you back home. If we can set up all 4 of those trips for you right now,
we're going to do all the tracking. Yep.
See where I'm going with this? You see where I'm going with this?
It's one secured credit card transaction. We're going to track every single leg of this trip. And by the way, go ahead and call Google, call the best guys on Google that are in that city. We actually they're part of the best ones are in our affiliate network. We have the best prices in town. The most important thing, it's one secured transaction. We're going to track you. They're going to be waiting for you at the airport. It's the safest way, especially if you find out it's a female executive.
Or a family, or kids, or someone.
The wife and daughter. Absolutely.
Look, it's counterintuitive to think that, hey, how would I get it by going up? But again, you're not going for the cost there. You're going for the value, right?
Yep.
And so I think that's where we'll leave it for this one, is understand that it's an open door, it's value. Again, highlight of our week. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, you can go to groundtransportationpodcast.com. Subscribe to us there. Obviously, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever your favorite social media platform is, very easy. You can search us there under Ground Transportation Podcast on all of those platforms. And for myself, thank you for joining. Ken, any closing words that you want to leave them with?
Listen, some say we're overplayed, James, but I say we are the best continuing education in the industry. We don't charge you a hotel fee. We don't charge you for a conference ticket. It's the best continuing education in the industry. And I'm happy to do it with you every Friday.
It's a pleasure. I can't think of anyone I'd rather do this with, Ken. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about PAX training and to contact James, go to paxtraining.com. And for more information about driving transactions and to contact Ken, go to drivingtransactions.com. We'll see you next time on the Ground Transportation Podcast.